Cold lights shimmered across the curved glass panels, embracing the great hall of Dreya Spire, where every sound seemed to be trapped within 1,000 layers of crystal. That night, the twin moons of Dreya Prime hovered high above, casting a deep blue glow down onto pillars carved with ancient patterns, transforming the place into both a cathedral and a stage, a sacred ground where every eye followed the footsteps of anyone about to embark on the very first trial of their destiny. Daren Velas stood silent outside the palace gates, his earth uniform utterly out of place amid the silver-skinned Dreyan guards, all lithe and graceful, yet exuding authority. From afar, ceremonial music drifted through the air, every drumbeat pounding like a heart set on the scales, accompanied by the intoxicating scent of black flowers that only bloomed in Dreya Spire's hanging gardens, a sweet fragrance every summoned warrior recognized, not just as a welcome, but as a test of their willpower. The gate opened, and 2 female attendants led him through the shimmering hall, past rows of Dreyan noble thrones carved from stone. At the highest step, Iselin Dreya appeared, her blue-tinged skin aglow beneath a silver cloak, black hair flowing down her back like a waterfall of silk, and pale violet eyes sharp as frost sweeping over the entire hall. As Iselin moved, it was as if the room itself paused, all but the sound of her gentle heels echoing, each step measured, testing, provoking even the deepest thoughts of her opponent. Daren did not bow his head, did not shrink away. He simply stood tall, eyes never leaving that powerful woman. His composure was not indifference but a silent challenge, as if saying, "I will not kneel unless I choose to." Iselin stopped before the final step, her gaze as sharp as a blade. "You're earlier than expected, Earthman." Daren's lips curved with a faint, knowing smile. "I'm merely on time, my lady." A cold, faint laugh slipped from Iselin. She lifted the edge of her cloak, exposing one long thigh marked with a laurel sigil, the emblem of Dreya's supreme power. "At Dreya Spire, newcomers must show their fealty," she said, her voice soft but ringing out, "or else they will never have the right to enter my chambers." Daren didn't move. Along the hall, Dreyan guards shifted slightly, as if awaiting a nod to force him to his knees. But Iselin simply waved them off. "I want to see whether you're a true warrior or merely a wandering vagrant." Daren remained still, his gaze unyielding. "I don't kneel to strangers, be they god or demon. If you want a puppet who bows on command, find someone else." Iselin's lips twitched, not in anger but in clear amusement. "You think, here in Dreya, that defiance will let you survive any longer." She descended a step, cold light skimming her skin, highlighting features both strong and irresistibly alluring. The nobles murmured in ancient Dreyan, their eyes tracking every move between her and him, waiting to see who would break first. Iselin leaned in, whispering into Daren's ear, "Then prove your mettle, where only the 2 of us can see." She turned down a side corridor, her cloak sweeping the polished floor. Daren said nothing, silently following, unflinching beneath hundreds of eyes, curiosity, admiration, and contempt all mixed in their gaze. They ventured deep into the inner sanctum. At the 3rd door, Iselin paused, pressed her wrist sigil lightly to a control panel. The door slid open, revealing a softly lit room where every object was draped in white silk. At the center stood a broad bed covered in Dreyan animal hide, the symbol of strength and fertility. Iselin stood in the center, turning to face Daren. She lifted her gown higher this time, revealing nearly her entire thigh, the sigil sparkling in the light, an unmistakable mark of her authority. "At Dreya Spire, submission is ritual, but here, with me, it's a choice," she said, her voice slow and honeyed. Daren still did not move, but his gaze darkened, fingers tightening on the frayed fabric of his old uniform. "If you want a ceremony, then kneel before me first," Only then will I respond." Iselin laughed, a sound like silver bells in the cold night. "Confident, aren't you, Earthman? Don't forget, in this place, every ritual has its price." Without waiting for his reaction, Iselin advanced, her hand brushing his collar, sliding down his shoulder, a gesture both gentle and commanding, as if she owned the very space and everything within it. Daren gripped her wrist, pulling her close, his mouth near her ear. "If you want me to yield, then make me truly want it." For a moment, two opposite forces surged, his stubborn, icy resolve as an earth warrior, her magnetic dominance as Dreya's sovereign. They collided like hidden lightning beneath layers of silk and shadow. Iselin pushed him onto the edge of the bed, her lips gliding across his neck, pausing at his collarbone. "Here I am the hunter," she murmured, "but don't think you cannot become the predator too if you dare." Daren didn't yield. He grasped her waist, drawing her near. The contact of their bodies sent a pulse of desire, intense yet controlled, as if they both stood poised on the edge between explosion and restraint. And as Iselin pushed him down onto the bed, straddling him, her hands tracing the line of his back, there was no master, no guest left. Only two beings testing each other's limits, vying for dominance, through every sense, every scratch, every burning kiss, every ragged breath tangled together beneath the heady scent of Dreyan silk. The first moan that escaped belonged to neither of them, or perhaps to both, but no one cared anymore. For on this night of initiation at Dreya Spire, a new battle had begun. A battle between two equals, of desire, power, and the purest kind of consent. When the first light of dawn crept into that room, they still lay tangled together, exhausted, but neither willing to surrender even the smallest bit of ground. And upon skin marked with fresh bites and scratches, a salute had taken place, not by command, but by the voluntary choice of two souls who would never bow to anyone but each other. When Daren awoke, his breath was still thick with the scent of flesh and Dreyan silk. Soft blue light filtered through the misted glass dome, illuminating new marks on his body. Faint bite imprints along his collarbone, scratches from nails down his back, crimson welts that testified to the unyielding battle of the night before. Beside him, Iselin still lay on her side, her tangled hair trailing over one shoulder, eyes half closed, chest gently rising and falling. Yet her slender legs were locked tightly around him with a strength not easily shrugged off. Daren shifted, attempting to disentangle himself. But Iselin opened her eyes, her gaze lazy yet all-seeing, her voice husky. "Do you think you can escape me before the rite is complete?" Daren smirked, eyes brimming with mockery. "I've never wanted to run. I just wonder what kind of battles I still have to fight in this fortress." Iselin laughed, the sound of a queen both in command and delighting in prey that refuses to submit. "In Dreya, one night is never enough. But now it's time for you to face the real test." She sat up, wrapping a silver sheet around her body before turning to look at him, half teasing, half commanding. "Get up, Daren Velas. Today is the Blood Rite, the ceremony that names you Consort. To survive here, you'll need more than prowess in bed. You'll need sharpness against every courtly scheme." He sprang to his feet, hurriedly donning the outfit prepared by the attendants, a mist-thin silk robe, just enough to cover what had to be covered, leaving the rest of his body on display. Across his collar, a temporary mark, a red streak of ink sweeping his collarbone, which in the shifting light looked like a living slash of blood. Iselin eyed him as if assessing a possession newly claimed, then turned away, beckoning attendants to tidy her hair and affix to Daren's arm a white silk band embroidered with the Dreya sigil, a small laurel inlaid with a blood-red ruby. The air was thick with ritual, undercurrents of desire smoldering without words. as if this entire place existed solely to blur the lines between power, politics, and passion. The nobles gathered in the great hall, each draped in shimmering fabrics, eyes icy sharp, their bearing a blend of curiosity and disdain as Daren appeared at Isolin's side. On the throne above, the ancient Dreyan elder stood and intoned, "Mistress of Dreya, have you chosen your consort?" Isolin said nothing, instead drawing Daren close, her finger gliding down his collar, tugging it open to reveal the mark she left, as if to proclaim, "He is mine." The elder nodded. An attendant stepped forward, carrying silver flasks of deep red liquid, blood mingled with Dreyan essences, reserved for rites. With solemn care, they painted swirling lines around Isolin and Daren's wrists, curves intertwining to symbolize an unbreakable bond between ruler and consort. "Now comes the final test," the elder declared, his gaze settling on Daren. "The consort must prove loyalty by offering submission to the mistress, before all of Dreya's eyes." A line of Dreyan guards swept in, drawing aside a vast silk curtain in the center of the hall to reveal a marble dais draped in white fur, the sacred site of the ritual. Isolin led Daren up, turning him to face the assembly's cold scrutiny. Her smile was icy, hand gliding over her waist, then suddenly yanking the silk away to bare her thigh and lower belly, where red markings coiled like chains. Her voice rang out, no longer a whisper but a command that dominated the entire hall. "In Dreya, submission is the emblem of courage, not weakness. Kneel, Daren Velas, and show them you fear no one, not even me." The atmosphere turned suffocating, all eyes fixed upon him. Daren stood unmoving, gaze sweeping the faces of the proud onlookers, then locking with Isolin's own. In that heavy silence he knelt slowly, not out of fear, but in acceptance of the challenge, his eyes never leaving the mistress's. Isolin leaned down, her hand tracing his cheek, then sliding down his neck, pausing at his chest where his heart thundered as if to break free. Her fingertips circled his skin, and she whispered, "Do you know why this rite has endured for generations? Only those who submit willingly are strong enough to stand by my side." Her hand tugged his collar lower, exposing his muscular chest encircled by the red band of blood. Then Isolin pressed her lips to the crossing of those lines, a kiss so hot and lingering it left no doubt of her desire. The entire hall held its breath. No one dared cough, no one dared look away. In that instant, Daren felt fire rip up his spine, equal parts shame and pride. He looked up, wrapped his arms around Isolin's waist, his eyes meeting hers. "If we've chosen each other upon the altar of power, let them see that tonight we are true allies." Isolin clasped his head tightly, crushing his mouth to hers in a kiss deep, wet, charged with possession and challenge for all to witness. Amid the nobles' cheers, the rite shifted into a spectacle of sensual power. Isolin could not hide her triumph, gripping his hand and pulling him down onto the dais, laying him bare beneath the lights. She bent low, her tongue gliding along the line of blood on his wrist, then whispering in his ear, "Are you ready to be prey once more, Daren Velas?" Daren laughed, his tone both teasing and burning. "Who do you think is the real hunter tonight, Isolin Dreya?" Isolin's hand slid down his body, tracing heated lines across his trembling skin. Her kisses were no longer gentle, but commands he could not refuse. Daren responded without hesitation, his hands gripping her hips, raising that powerful body above him, and together they entwined, surrounded by light, music, and the unhidden murmurs of desire from Dreya's noble audience. That night the Blood Rite, once merely a formality to confirm power, became the union of two indomitable spirits, two flames refusing to be extinguished. Daren knew that after this night, He was not just a consort, but an indispensable force in Dreya's dominion, not because he bowed, but because he dared to give himself to fight for what he chose. And in a shadowed corner of the hall, those with ambition exchanged glances, realizing, from this moment forward, the struggle for power in Dreya would no longer be a mere courtly game. It had become a true clash among the strongest souls, those who knew both how to submit and how to rebel. Daren Velas gradually realized that in Dreya Spire, every ritual was just the surface of a labyrinth of power and desire, where every gaze was laden with suspicion, and every congratulation concealed a threat. After the Blood Rite, as the night deepened, he was led by attendants to the consort's private quarters. The corridors were so cold and empty that each footstep echoed endlessly. Every shadowy corner seemed haunted by the scent of black flowers mingled with the sweet sting of spirits, clinging to the air like a curse. Daren's quarters were unlike anywhere he had ever stayed before. Spacious, but unlocked, with glass walls overlooking the Plaza of Lights, a broad mattress draped in cold, black silk, and on the table, a flask of Dreyan liquor and some snacks that might well be laced with poison. Daren glanced around. His survivor's instincts, honed as a former soldier, kept him perpetually alert. Here, the slightest carelessness could turn a consort into a cold corpse before enjoying a single privilege. He hadn't yet taken a sip of the liquor when a slender figure appeared at the door, gliding in as silently as mist. Dreya had shed all her layers of power, wearing only a gossamer white sheet, hair unbound, eyes glinting with a rare mix of fire and worry. She shut the door behind her, entering like a breeze, needing no words for Daren to understand. Something was stirring outside, and for now, only between the two of them was there any semblance of safety, or at least, no hidden daggers behind a smile. Iselin sat at the edge of the bed, long legs just brushing the floor, her face turned toward the shadowy balcony, her voice barely above a whisper. "Someone has just put a price on my head in the Garlith black market. They won't wait long." Daren raised an eyebrow, moving closer, his hand unconsciously resting on her shoulder, feeling the quiet tension beneath her smooth skin. So, the rite was only the beginning of a new round of danger. She turned to face him, violet eyes sharp as blades, for the first time stripped of all regal masks, leaving only the exhaustion of a woman who must fight for survival every minute. "I have lived too long in the shadows of this palace, Daren. Tonight may be my last if I cannot hold my throne." Daren's hand traced gently down her back, the aches from their earlier battle on the stone altar still throbbing. But it was the fear in Iselin's eyes that made him want to protect her more than anything. He leaned in, kissed her forehead gently. "You're not alone. From now on, if there's blood to spill, I'll be the one standing in front of you." A rare moment of peace, where two strong souls exchanged the most dangerous of vows without words, to share passion and peril come what may. But as their eyes lingered, the hallway outside erupted with noise, metal clashing against stone, hurried footsteps not belonging to any palace guard. Iselin sprang up, pulling Daren to the glass window. Before the faint light outside could touch them, the door crashed open. 3 masked shadows burst in, Dreyan blades gleaming, as if ready to kill even their mistress. Without hesitation, Daren lunged, sweeping the first assassin's legs with the practiced motion of a man who had survived interstellar wars. Iselin retreated toward the bed, quick as lightning, drawing a silver dagger from her sash, the flash of steel in her hand a decree of power. They fought in the dim bedroom, each blow, every parry, a mix of survival instinct and refusal to submit to fear. Daren dodged a blade, smashed the second assassin's face with the liquor bottle, blood spraying across Iselin's white sheet. leaving a stain both violent and strangely seductive. The last assailant, realizing he couldn't kill quickly, released a canister of smoke, greenish vapor swirling out, sharp with the scent of black flowers. A toxin that paralyzed Dreyan nerves within minutes, but for Daren, it only sharpened his senses. He pulled Iselin into his arms, held her tight, whispering into her ear, "Stay close. Don't let go." She didn't resist. On the contrary, she clung to his neck, their bodies pressed together on the cold floor. Poisonous smoke filled the room, cloaking every shape, leaving nothing but the pounding of two hearts as one. As the assassin's shadow passed, Daren struck with a sudden kick, choking him out with practiced force. The attackers were bound and left sprawled across the floor, the air thick with sweat, blood, and a hunger that had yet to fully ignite. Iselin looked up at Daren, her gaze wild with fear and gratitude, then suddenly pulled him onto the bed, as if every shred of terror and tension had been transformed into a craving that could no longer be denied. She climbed atop him, biting his lip, eyes bright with adrenaline and want. "I hate feeling weak, but tonight, if you hadn't been here." Daren flipped her beneath him, clutching her close, his hand sliding down her bare back, voice breaking between rushed kisses. "You're not weak. You're fire. I'm just the fool who dares to leap into your storm and accept the burn." They tangled together in blood-stained white sheets, desire and survival instincts spiraling into a storm both fierce and liberating. No more rituals, no more control, only raw sensation striking at fear and the primal urge to survive. Every kiss was a challenge to fate, every grip a declaration. "We will live, even if we have to burn this fortress to the ground." When the frenzy passed, they lay together, breathing ragged, the scent of blood in the air and the wind howling outside the glass. Iselin rested her head on Daren's chest, her hand gripping the small cut over his heart, as if trying to hold onto the memory of this perilous night. "Tonight," she whispered, "I haven't just chosen you as consort. I've chosen you as the only one I trust, even against all of Dreya's court." Daren kissed her hair softly. "I can't promise to be the perfect shield, but I swear I'll be the last one standing if anyone comes for you." Outside, the palace alarm bells began to wail, signaling a coming purge. But in that room, amidst blood and rumpled sheets, Daren and Iselin knew. They had crossed the line between life and death together, and from this night on, they would no longer be two lonely souls on the battlefield of Dreya's power, but two flames, ready to burn through every challenge ahead. The first dawn after the assassination attempt cast a heavy, leaden gray over Dreya Spire. The alarm bells had faded, but the air inside the citadel remained thick with suspicion. Every glance was sharper than the day before, as if every stone beneath their feet might conceal a deadly secret. Daren Velas stood by his chamber window, bare-chested, scratches and fresh traces of blood still marked across his resilient skin. He gazed down in silence at the plaza below, where squads of soldiers combed every shadow, questioned every servant, and searched every corridor that led into the palace. In Daren's mind, the residue of the wild, bloody, and sensual night had not yet faded. It was not just a memory, but a force driving him to live, to fight to the end for Iselin Dreya. The door behind him creaked open. Iselin entered, wrapped in a smoky silver cloak, her dark hair piled high to reveal a new scratch on her neck, a badge from a night spent challenging death and drowning in raw passion. Her eyes no longer held exhaustion, but the alertness of someone who had crossed the border of life and death and would never again allow herself to be weak. "The Council of Elders has called for a gathering in the Grand Hall," Iselin said, her voice low and steady. "All vows of loyalty must be reaffirmed this morning. They need to see that the one standing beside me is not merely a consort, but a warrior willing to face down the entire court if need be." Daren nodded, reaching for the black ceremonial robe prepared for him. Fine Dreyan fabric, tight-fitting, the collar embroidered in silver dragon scales, a symbol for those who dared defy tradition. When he was dressed, Iselin approached and fastened a golden laurel brooch blood-tipped to his chest. "From this moment," she whispered, "every eye will be on you. You have to make them believe. You and I are one. Don't make me hide anything anymore." Daren pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead, his hand threading through her thick hair. That kiss was not only tenderness but an unspoken vow. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, then let out a soft laugh, a sound trembling with both pride and vulnerability, as if calming herself while urging him onward. Together they walked the halls packed with guards and made their way straight to Dreya's grand chamber. There, 12 elders and the heads of allied houses were already seated in 2 marble rows, their eyes cold, some respectful, some weighing every move. At the center, a low throne, the seat of the mistress, awaited Iselin. As soon as they entered, the eldest of the council spoke. After the Blood Rite, there should have been peace. But now an assassination. Was it you two who brought this unrest to Dreya? Iselin didn't answer at once. She rose, pulling Daren to the center, unafraid to display his bruises and fresh blood on his neck and shoulders. Her voice cut through the silence. "The traitor hides in the shadows, not on this throne. But today, Dreya will no longer tolerate anyone who seeks to kill its ruler." She gestured, and soldiers brought in the 3 assassins captured the night before. The entire council watched in silence as they were forced to kneel, heads bowed, faces mottled with bruises. Iselin strode forward, drawing a ritual dagger, silver flashing in her grip. "Who hired you?" One trembled, shaking his head, lips turning blue from fear. But the second stared straight at Daren, his voice choked. "We only obeyed the one bearing the royal sigil." The hall erupted. Iselin shot Daren a look, suspicion flashing in her eyes. The royal sigil meant betrayal from within Dreya's own bloodline. She ordered the soldiers to strip the right shoulders of each assassin, inspecting every layer of ink, until finally a faint tattoo was revealed. The symbol of House Velker, a clan notorious for coup attempts over the past century. Daren understood the war had escalated. This was no longer personal murder, but a plot for the throne, and the traitor could be sitting right there in the council. Tension thickened the air. All eyes flickered toward Velker's patriarch, a silver-haired old fox gripping his scepter tightly. The old man's voice was dry and brittle. "Velker's slaves do not always obey their former masters, mistress of Dreya. Don't place the crimes of an entire house on a cheap mark." Iselin didn't reply. Instead, she turned to Daren, her voice like a blade of ice. "Here in Dreya, truth isn't what is spoken, but what someone dares defend with blood. Do you dare, Daren Velas?" Daren nodded, stepping forward, his eyes fierce with resolve. Drawing a small knife always kept at his belt, he sliced a thin line across his palm, letting blood drip onto the white stone. He gripped Iselin's hand, pressing his blood-soaked palm to her shoulder. "With this blood, I vow to hunt down and drag into the light every traitor in Dreya, no matter who they are." The entire chamber fell silent. The elders exchanged looks of shock and admiration. A consort shedding blood before the council was utterly without precedent. Iselin tightened her hold on his hand, turning back to the council. "Does anyone here object to the union of mistress and consort?" No one spoke. "Then," her voice now softened, "the ritual is complete. From this moment, Daren Velas is not just consort, but the keeper of the blood oath. He has the right to search, interrogate, even punish any suspected traitor, noble or not." The air cracked, a few whispers hissing through the chamber, but no one dared challenge them openly. When the council dispersed, Iselin pulled Daren back to their private wing. As soon as the door closed, she collapsed into his arms, trembling, her voice breaking. "You have just become the most dangerous man in Dreya, Daren Velas. They will never forgive you if you threaten their power." Daren wrapped her tightly, his strong hands gliding down her back, lips brushing her neck, whispering in her ear, "They may hate me, but they won't dare touch you, because I'll be the first to bleed for you again." Iselin looked up, her eyes shining with emotion and desire. No longer holding back, she pulled him onto the bed, where the soft silk had been waiting as testament to their mingled power and passion. They lost themselves in each other, their kisses now more than possessive, but brimming with worry, comfort, and a promise to defy every danger outside. Their bodies entwined, hands gripping, nails drawing blood, every thrust and moan an affirmation. No matter who rules, no matter how darkness encroaches, we choose each other above all. In the palace's shadows, the brightest flames of lust were also where the strongest spirits were tested and forged into steel. When the fever finally eased, Iselin still lay atop Daren's chest, whispering like a prayer, "I am not afraid of losing my throne, only of losing you." Daren smiled softly, stroking her back. "You can't lose me unless you're the one to let go." Outside, the rain began to fall, cold droplets drumming on Dreya Spire's glass roof, keeping rhythm for a new war to come. But inside, in each other's arms, they knew. So long as they dared love, dared give themselves and face every storm together, they truly were the masters of their own fate. The days that followed at Dreya Spire passed in a state of unrelenting tension. Daren Velas had officially become the keeper of the blood oath, but his newfound authority had barely taken root before being swept into the heart of suspicion and intrigue. Every step he took along those silk-draped corridors was watched by dozens of discreet eyes. Every whisper between the handmaidens, every glance from the elders was loaded, with respect, with caution, and with an eager desire to witness his downfall. Since the assembly in the Great Hall, Dreya had transformed into a living organism, tense, wary, defensive to the extreme. Iselin Dreya herself allowed no rest. She held constant secret meetings with her most trusted advisors, checked every ledger, scrutinized every sign of unusual behavior from servants and guards alike, and quietly kept even her closest confidants under observation. In the palace, there was not a single soul who wasn't, in some way, under the scrutiny of both Daren and Iselin. One cold, rainy night, as a storm from Dreya's outer world raged with fury, Daren returned to his private chamber. There, on the table, lay a scrap of black silk embroidered in silver thread with the image of a coiled serpent, a mark of secret warning, reserved only for those dangerous enough to become true targets. He picked up the silk, fingers tracing the cold threads, and without hesitation headed straight for Iselin's chambers. She sat alone on a fur-covered chair, eyes quietly watching the rain streak the glass, falling over the square below. Hearing the door, Iselin barely glanced up, offering no questions. Daren approached, set the silk in her palm, his voice husky. "They've sent a challenge straight to your door." Iselin stroked the cloth, a cold smile curling her lips. The Velker clan isn't just adept at assassinating in the dark. They take pleasure in showing their prey that the hunt has begun. She stood, her long cloak sliding from her shoulders to reveal a thin silk gown beneath, every movement radiating both queen and predator. Daren grasped her wrist, pulled her close, staring directly into her eyes. "Don't fight alone anymore. If we must step out of the darkness, let's do it together." Iselin didn't answer. She simply pulled him into an embrace, her lips finding his in a violent kiss, tongue sweeping past his teeth as if testing whether this man truly dared to go to the end with her. They lost themselves in each other, stripping away every layer of defense, left with nothing but two burning bodies and wounds still raw from every battle of wit and power. Outside, the rain drowned all sound but the racing breaths of two defiant souls. Daren pinned Iselin beneath him, both hands gripping her shoulders, old wounds layered with new bites, scratches, beads of blood on her thigh, each thrust transforming pain into pleasure, a living testament to their vow of protection and loyalty. In the storm of passion, Iselin shoved Daren back and climbed atop him, her eyes ablaze with equal parts pain and longing. "If tonight is our last, would you bleed for me?" Daren gripped her hips, his reply instant. "I'll bleed for you, and if need be, I'll kill anyone who dares touch you." Iselin laughed, a sound trembling, fragile and fierce. She leaned down, bit his shoulder hard enough to draw blood, then used that blood to draw an ancient Dreyan symbol, a spiral of unbreakable alliance, on his chest. They tangled together, bruised, writhing, every collision a renewed oath, every cry an anthem. No matter who claims power beyond these walls, no matter how much blood is spilled, this bond will not be broken. Climax struck them like a thunderstorm, and in that moment, neither queen nor consort remained. Only two bare souls, all defenses surrendered, left with nothing but trust in one another. As the storm outside finally faded, Iselin collapsed onto Daren's chest, her breath still trembling, eyes reddened from exhaustion and overwhelming feeling. She quietly wiped the blood from his shoulder, then spoke softly, as if afraid to shatter the fragile peace. "Tomorrow night, the council will meet in secret. I know someone is setting a trap, planning to use me as bait to destroy you. And if they succeed, Dreya will have a new master, and I'll become someone else's pawn." Daren held her tight, his gaze unwavering. "Then let me be the one to break the trap first. Let's see who the real prey is." They crashed into each other again, as if two waves that could never tire. Amid the pounding rain, their bodies fused as one, blood mingling with sweat, breath forging a living oath. Every kiss, every bite was a declaration of war, against fate, against the council, against Dreya's oldest rules. "We will not let anyone part us. Even if we die, we'll die together." By sunrise, only the remnants of the storm remained. A rumpled mattress, the scent of blood and skin, and two bodies exhausted but with eyes blazing with resolve. In Iselin's eyes, for the first time, flickered a spark of absolute trust, the kind of faith built only through the price of blood, of flesh, and of the heart. Outside, Dreya shifted again. Within, the two who had fought and loved together knew the true trial by fire would come with the next night, when the council, their enemies, and fate itself would corner them in the deepest shadow of power. The last night of the blood rituals had arrived. Dreya Spire blazed with ribbons of icy blue light winding around the glass dome, like cold scars etched across the sky. The grand hall was silent, every door sealed, torchlight flickering and casting strange shadows across the stone floor, monstrous shapes lurking at the edge of every bid for the throne. Iselin Dreya was draped in a jet-black ceremonial cloak, embroidered in silver thread, beneath which her skin was nearly bare, adorned with patterns of blood, the mark of the mistress through the ages. Each step of her heels rang out, steady and strong on the stone, a warning to every enemy. "I will not fall, no matter what stands against me." Daren Velas stood waiting at the center of the hall, led by guards into a circle of fire, an ancient rite where only consort and mistress had the right to enter. His gaze was calm, yet taut as a drawn bowstring. He wore a tight black battle uniform, and on his neck, the blood mark left by Iselin the night before had dried into a dark red scar, a badge of honor and a reminder of survival. On the high benches, 12 elders and Velker's patriarch watched, arms crossed. The air was thick, as if everyone already knew there would be blood tonight. The only question was whose blood would be shed. The ceremony began with a series of ancient oaths. Iselin lifted her head, her voice resounding under the vaults of glass. Tonight, before the council of Dreya and the blood of all our ancestors, I choose my consort not only as keeper of the blood oath, but as my co-ruler, my defender, and the witness to the survival of this dynasty. The Velker patriarch shot to his feet, his voice cracking like a whip. Power cannot be shared with an outsider. If he crosses this threshold, it is a challenge to all Dreyan tradition. Daren did not retreat an inch, his gaze burning through every objection. If tradition is only a mask for betrayal and murder, then it deserves to be replaced. As his words rang out, 3 black-clad figures rushed from the shadows, weapons flashing cold and deadly. Daren turned, dodging their blows with the decisiveness of a seasoned warrior. Iselin did not stand aside. She drew her ritual dagger, slicing a line of blood down her arm, letting drops fall to the stone, a rite called blood challenge. Any who would oppose her must shed blood with the mistress. Daren grappled with the assassins, his body twisting like a living blade. Blood spattered the cold floor, some from his foes, some from himself, yet he never faltered. Iselin leapt in, fighting at his side. They moved like twin spears, attacking and shielding each other, each collision a heartbeat fused with rage and desire. The fight ended when Daren toppled the last attacker. Iselin cut the silver chain from Velker's patriarch's neck, a sign of his guilt. She held the chain aloft, blood dripping down, and turned to the council, her voice as cold as moonlight. From this moment, any traitor to Dreya will be judged on the spot, in blood. No more waiting for verdicts. A terrible silence fell. Gradually, the elders nodded. The Velker patriarch was taken away, the grand hall dissolving into whispers of awe and fear. The blood rite complete, Iselin came to Daren, her face still streaked with red, her eyes alight with a fire for survival, and for a fierce love she had never admitted before. Without a word, she pulled him from the hall, down corridors lined with black flowers. Back in their chamber, they collapsed together onto the silk-draped bed, unable to tell tears from blood from sweat. Iselin buried her face in Daren's chest, her lips salty, hands trembling from surviving death and from a hunger so fierce it felt as though it would melt her bones. Daren pulled her closer, devouring her in a kiss meant to swallow all the pain and fear they had just endured. Their bodies tangled in a rough, ferocious union, not gentle, but a symphony of pain, release, and a demand that they live, love, hurt, and breathe as honestly as possible. Every thrust left a new scar, every cry a new vow. If we cannot live together in the light, then let us be one in the darkness. Iselin wrapped her legs around Daren, arching back with a cry as pleasure crashed over her, and Daren held her as if letting go would make them both vanish. When every sense was ablaze, her tears mixed with his mouth, pain and a happiness she had never known. "Tonight," Iselin whispered, voice trembling, "I am no longer the mistress. I am only a woman afraid of losing you." "You will never lose me," Daren answered, gently stroking her back, kissing the blood at her throat. "Because from this moment our fates are bound together." They lay together, breathing as one, the rain outside falling without end, as if the sky itself washed away the blood and shadows of a bygone age. At dawn, when the first light after the blood rites rose, Dreya Spire wore a new silver sheen. Iselin and Daren stepped onto the balcony together, facing the new day. Below, the entire court bowed. No one called him consort now, no one dared question the mistress's authority. They were true co-rulers, power, desire, and love, all having chosen their rightful owners. Iselin clasped Daren's hand, her voice proud yet softer than ever. In Dreya, from now on, every tradition can be remade, as long as we do not leave each other." Daren bent his head, whispering in her ear, a sweet curse. "As long as you want me, nothing in this world can part us." They stood together, beneath the brilliant light and the chill wind atop Dreya Spire, knowing that after all the pain, struggle, and passion, what remained was an absolute faith in each other, and a power chosen and sealed by blood, tears, and the deepest kind of willing surrender.